Before you open your refrigerator today to grab a cold drink, consider what it took to get that luxury 150 years ago. You would have relied on an army of men standing on a frozen river, manually sawing apart massive blocks of ice by hand. For more than a century, every single piece of ice in America came directly from a frozen lake. Workers would score the surface, break off enormous rafts of the stuff, guide it with long poles, and load it onto horse-drawn sleds, and stack it in wooden warehouses packed to the ceiling with sawdust. By the 1880s, this operation employed an estimated 90,000 workers. Together, they pulled 25 million tons of ice out of nature every single year. This entire empire relied on a heavy, fragile commodity whose natural physical state is to destroy itself by turning back into water. The whole operation started in 1806 because a 23-year-old from Boston named Frederick Tudor had a bizarre idea. He wanted to cut ice from his family's Massachusetts pond and ship it to colonists sweating through the tropical Caribbean heat. The local papers laughed at him, and his own family thought he was delusional. Actually getting the ice onto a boat was nearly impossible. Maritime crews refused to touch the cargo. They were terrified that thousands of pounds of melting ice would flood their holds and sink their ships in the middle of the ocean. Tudor had to buy his own vessel just to get out of the harbor. Those first few voyages to Martinique and Cuba were financial disasters. Most of the cargo melted on the 3-week journey, and when the surviving ice arrived, there was nowhere cold to store it. Tudor lost thousands of dollars and eventually landed in a Boston debtor's prison, but he kept going. To solve the melting problem at the destination, Tudor designed double-walled, above-ground ice houses in Husinahat, cracking the gaps with heavy insulation. Finally, his ice survived long enough to sell. Then he made his biggest gamble. In 1833, he shipped 180 tons of ice on a brutal 16,000-mile voyage to India. It took 4 months. Half the cargo melted along the way, but the surviving 100 tons arrived in Calcutta and sold to British colonists for staggering margins. India quickly became his most profitable market. Tudor proved you could harvest a completely free natural resource, ship it across the planet, and charge top dollar for it. Once other businesses saw those profit margins, they piled in, triggering a frenzied national gold rush for frozen water. As new companies flooded the market, they hit a serious production bottleneck. Hacking ice out of ponds with hand tools resulted in jagged, irregular chunks. They packed poorly in the ship holds, wasted enormous amounts of raw material, and melted far too fast. In 1826, Tudor hired inventor Nathaniel Wyeth, who designed a horse-drawn mechanical ice cutter. Instead of hacking at random, workers dragged heavy metal teeth across the pond, scoring perfect grids into the frozen surface to create uniform, tightly packing blocks. This chart shows the immediate economic impact of Wyeth's invention. Manual harvesting cost about 30 cents per ton. With the new mechanical cutter, that cost dropped to just 10 cents. One tool tripled the efficiency of the entire operation overnight. Wyeth also scaled up the storage. He built enormous, above-ground warehouses using double-wall construction and sawdust insulation, allowing these uniform blocks to be safely stacked up to 80 feet high and survive straight through a hot New England summer. By solving the harvesting and storage problems, Wyeth's engineering turned the ice trade from a high-risk maritime experiment into a predictable, highly efficient machine ready to dominate the domestic market. With a cheap, abundant supply now available, ice began quietly re-engineering other American industries. German immigrants had brought lager brewing to the country, but lager requires cold fermentation. Thanks to the new ice supply, brewers could make it year-round, eventually consuming 3 million tons of ice annually. Then came meatpacking. In the 1870s, a Chicago businessman named Gustavus Swift financed the design of specialized ice-cooled railroad cars to safely transport butchered beef. This map shows the birth of the modern cold chain. Instead of inefficiently shipping live cattle, Swift slaughtered them in Chicago, loading fresh steaks into refrigerated cars. To keep them cold, they built a massive network of icing stations from Omaha to the Sierra Nevada. Now, fresh Midwest beef and crisp California lettuce could travel safely for thousands of miles, arriving perfectly chilled on dinner tables in Manhattan. This massive continental chain ended locally. Heavy wagons rattled through city streets, delivering 300-pound blocks of frozen lake water to millions of homes. The neighborhood iceman would grab a heavy block with iron tongs, throw it over a leather shoulder pad, and haul it right into your kitchen. By the late 1880s, the ice trade had become an invisible, indispensable pillar holding the entire American food supply together. But there was a fatal flaw built into this billion-dollar infrastructure. The entire national food supply was absolutely reliant on the unpredictability of winter weather. In 1880 and again in 1890, the winter was unusually warm. The Hudson River, which supplied most of New York's ice, simply stayed liquid. With nothing to harvest, ice prices spiked, urban grocers watched their inventory rot, and families panicked as their home iceboxes failed. As if the weather wasn't enough, the industry was facing a second, far more disturbing problem. American cities were experiencing massive population booms, and those cities were dumping raw sewage and industrial waste directly into the exact same rivers the ice companies were harvesting from. Soon, public health officials and doctors began linking local typhoid outbreaks to contaminated ice deliveries. Consumers were suddenly realizing that the large block of ice sitting next to their children's milk was frozen river sewage. The ice barons were trapped in a nightmare scenario. The core product that drove their entire empire was becoming dangerously unreliable because of the climate and dangerously toxic because of pollution. While the natural ice companies struggled, mechanical engineers were perfecting artificial ammonia compression refrigerators. Down in the American South, where natural ice was always expensive to import, entrepreneurs began building local plants that manufactured perfectly clean, frozen blocks on demand. The natural ice industry fought back with remarkable hubris. They ran marketing campaigns claiming their own tainted lake ice was wholesome, while attacking the clean, manufactured ice as unnatural. But they couldn't stop the math. By 1914, the crossover finally happened. The country produced 26 million tons of manufactured ice, officially beating the natural harvest. The First World War accelerated the shift even further because the military needed reliable cold storage that didn't depend on New England weather. Then came the final blow. In 1927, General Electric introduced an affordable household electric refrigerator. Within a few decades, mechanical refrigeration poured into American kitchens, rendering the wooden icebox and the neighborhood iceman permanently obsolete. The collapse was absolute. Those 90,000 jobs vanished within a single generation. Along the Hudson River, the colossal warehouses that once held thousands of tons of frozen water simply rotted away, collapsed, or burned to the ground. Frederick Tudor died a wealthy man, convinced he had built a permanent global enterprise. But his legacy is a stark reminder. Even the most dominant, sprawling infrastructures can completely evaporate when their foundations are fragile.